Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I have a little story that happened to me yesterday. I'm still wondering if I did the correct thing. Now, this is going to be somewhere where I invite you, the audience, to participate and leave your comments down below. They're always welcome, but I'm curious to see what you have to say about this situation. Right, so my daughter goes to grade 6. And while she wasn't directly involved in this situation, I find it concerning. Remember, she's an 11-year-old, she's excited. Not all her details are going to be 100%, but you kind of get the gist of the story. She was in languages class, and they had a substitute teacher. I only mention that because I think it's highly relevant. The kids are allowed to use their MacBooks and Chromebooks and stuff in class, but the teacher had decided to read a story at the front of the class and wanted them to pay attention. So naturally, the substitute teacher asked everybody to put away their MacBooks, their Chromebooks, their devices, everything, and listen to her. So far, it sounds like a typical classroom situation, doesn't it? Right now, I have no problem. For the purposes of remaining anonymous, we're going to have two kids. R is female, K is male. You know what? I'm just going to describe them as boy and girl because aside from the supply teacher, they're the only real actors in this story. My little girl is watching. She's not participating, so I don't really need to protect the innocent. I can just describe what happened. So the little boy decided he didn't want to put his device away and was still using it. The little girl decided she was going to put up her hand and say, "Mrs. Supply Teacher, the little boy is not putting his device away." So, what would be the natural reaction? The teacher, of course, asks the little boy to put his device away. The little boy decides that instead of putting his device away, he's going to pick up a metal drink cup. Metal, not the plastic ones, which we'll get back to that, and throw it at the little girl's face. Now, for whatever reason, he didn't connect. Whether the kid dodged, whatever, I wasn't there, I didn't see it. You would be thinking about now, there'd be some divine intervention. No, nothing. As a matter of fact, he got up, went up to the little girl, and began a fist fight. Now, this goes on for more than a second when the supply teacher suddenly decides she's going to go get the homeroom teacher to deal with this. Can you imagine why I am upset? Always remember, the calmer I sound, the worse I am. Then, when I'm interrogating my little girl, because I want details, I ask about whether this little boy has had problems in the past. Oh yeah, earlier this year, he got into a fight with another girl. Now I'm seeing a problem. Now, Miss Supply Teacher, she's reading a book, but you still got to be aware of your surroundings. And this is a deep fail. When you hear a metal cup clanging against the ground, clanging against a wall, or worse, clanging off someone's head, it makes a pretty distinct sound. I don't have a metal drink cup at the present time, so I'm not going to demonstrate it, but we've all heard it when it falls on the floor. And when it's heaved, it gets louder. The supply teacher decided that was not a moment to intervene. This is disturbing on two counts. One, why are metal cups allowed in a school? Plastic is still going to suck to get hit with, but doesn't have quite the same density that you're going to get with an actual, with an actual metal cup. Then there's enough time for these children to get in together and mix it up, to have a nice little punch up together. Why was that not shut down? First of all, I'm going to give the supply teacher some credit. She's not aware of the dynamics of the classroom. And maybe this kid, maybe he bangs his cup for attention or something like that. So I'm going to forgive her right to the point where the boy has his arm cocked, ready to throw. A little shock is there. She's not sure what's going on. Past that point, she's culpable for what's going on. Little boy, I don't want him around my little girl, but I understand he's still young, he's developing, there's a whole lot of stuff there. There's nothing I can do. I could call the principal and complain, but what's that going to accomplish? This is a supply teacher, and she's already nervous. The boy, they probably have a record on him, and it's disturbing that a little girl and a little boy, remember, this is that weird point, grade 6 is that weird point in life where the girls have that little spurt of growth before the boys catch up. But boys are generally, very generally, stronger than girls. And I'm not saying that to belittle women. Women can do anything they like. I have complete respect for women. There's this woman I follow. She's a professional wrestler. She does Highland Games. I guarantee she can beat me in any lifting competition she chooses. This is not saying girls are weak. This is just saying with little boys and little girls, you don't want skin-to-skin contact on any of them. Might remember the pandemic a couple years ago. You don't want skin-to-skin contact ever. But that's not what happened. And now we have an assault situation. First of all, the throwing, again, I can see that being swept under the table. But the fighting, that's serious. You have to take that up because when we were young, kids would fight. And I remember there were some pretty vicious scraps that went on. But generally, for the most part, boys didn't touch girls. And since that didn't happen, it was usually kids roughly the same going at it. You wouldn't get a grade 8 picking on a grade 6, generally. Now, it did happen, but it was very rare. And surprisingly, the girls won a lot of those fights. But in my own situation, I talked with my wife. I had our little girl explain to my wife what happened, and my wife takes her usual attitude: it doesn't affect us. Whereas me, being ex-military, no, this does affect us. We're still parents of somebody in that school, somebody who seems to have a predilection for picking on females, and is probably going to be in that class for at least another couple months, if not a couple more years. So I just counseled my little one, my usual advice: stay away from them. I'm doing very well so far in the parenting department because I'm just telling her, avoid these people. Don't be a coward, but just don't get involved with people that are going to wind you up in trouble. When you see it from a mile away, like this young boy that seems to have an issue with females, cross the street, go the opposite direction. Do whatever it takes to avoid that person, because they'll bring nothing but trouble into your life. I still today want to call the principal, but I'm going to wait for my little girl to get home. And the reason for that is I want to hear what happened. If the little boy was not in class today, okay, suspended, that happens. And I think it would be a logical consequence. You may disagree. You might want to say suspensions don't solve anything. But you need to let the instigator, who was the little boy throwing a metal cup, know that his actions were inappropriate. And you can't do that if you sit them all back in the same class. That's my opinion. Now, some people say suspensions are cruel and unusual and isolate them and make them feel, like they're being picked on. But an in-school suspension, at least they're not at home playing video games. They're sitting there doing work, being supervised. I know I had an in-school suspension once. It was really boring. Was it 1 day or 3 days? I forget. It felt like forever. But am I right? Since it's not my kid, I say nothing. Should I be involved? Because we've all heard that line. We've had complaints from other parents or other customers, whatever you have in your life. We've all heard that line. And by not calling, am I not giving that principal a tool they could use? I'd also like to talk about the supply teacher's behavior because yeah, ignore the small things. Two kids arguing over which trading card that they each got and stuff like that. Go tell somebody who cares. But this was an assault. At every stage, it was an assault, and the teacher tried to ignore it. This bothers me. Especially a supply teacher is either a retired teacher doing extra hours, but this one sounds like the ones who are young and trying to get into the school. And at very least, I'd like to have that feedback in their file. Not vindictive. Maybe they're really good and this was just a bad day for them, but a bad day that allows two kids to fight, that's unacceptable. Or at least it is in my opinion. Please let me know in the comments what you have to say about that because I'm not always right. Silverlight will be the first to admit I'm not always right. I can be an arrogant son of a gun sometimes, but I'm not always right. And I'm not ashamed to admit it when I'm wrong. You'll just have to prove me wrong. But with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, share, because sharing is caring. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Click the bell icon down below because that'll notify you every time we have an episode of The Silverlight Show. And we hope you have a fantastic day.